Imagine writing a physics textbook, but filling it with myths, hymns, and numerological poetry. That's what Plato did. The most ambitious philosopher in Western history looked at the physical world and declared it not really worth knowing. Not properly, not the way mathematics and pure ideas are worth knowing. He distrusted the world we can see, touch, and measure, and built a hierarchy that placed nature at the bottom. To understand why, start with two dialogues that map the examined life's territory. Socrates famously declared that the unexamined life is not worth living. Plato took this imperative seriously and built two great investigations from it. The Theaetetus turns inward, investigating the nature of knowledge itself, what it means to truly know something. The Timaeus turns outward, investigating the physical world, what it's made of and why it exists. Two compass directions of a single philosophical project, one pointing toward the mind, the other toward the cosmos. For Plato, these directions were never equal. The inward turn always held priority. A telling dramatic detail reveals Plato's priorities. The Timaeus is set the day after the conversation recorded in the Republic, the dialogue where Plato presents his theory of forms, justice, and the ideal city. This dramatic timing is no accident. Plato signals that any account of nature depends on and follows from his metaphysics. Physics rests on the foundation of the eternal. It is subordinate. Many pre-Socratic philosophers composed works titled On Nature or On the Cosmos. Plato never did. The Timaeus is as close as he gets, and it is saturated with myths and Pythagorean mathematical speculation rather than empirical observation. Here is the critical distinction at the heart of Plato's thought. He drew a sharp line between two kinds of understanding. At the top sits genuine knowledge, episteme in Greek, meaning certain, stable understanding of eternal truths. Episteme pertains only to the realm of forms, perfect, unchanging ideas like justice itself and beauty itself, and to mathematical objects. The angles of a triangle sum to 180 degrees. That is knowledge, certain, secure, beyond doubt. Below that line sits everything we learn about the physical world. Plato called this true opinion, doxa in Greek, meaning belief that is roughly correct but never fully reliable, not false, not worthless, but never certain because the physical world is always changing. Rivers shift course, bodies age and decay. You can hold correct beliefs about nature, but you can never know nature the way you know a geometric proof. The sensory world is philosophically second-rate. Plato didn't arrive at this hierarchy in a vacuum. He was reacting against an entire tradition, the Ionian physicists. These pre-Socratic thinkers, philosophers who came before Socrates, sought naturalistic explanations for the cosmos through material causes. Thales said everything was made of water. Anaximander proposed a boundless indefinite substance. Democritus built the universe from indivisible atoms. Empedocles combined four elements: earth, water, air, and fire. Each thinker tried to reduce nature to its material ingredients. Plato considered their entire project inferior, not because nature didn't exist, but because he believed nature contains telos. Telos is the Greek term for purpose or end goal. Nature has direction and design. That purpose can't be grasped by cataloging physical ingredients alone. Socrates himself, Plato tells us, was always more interested in the soul and human things than in rocks and rivers. This brings us to the strangeness of the Timaeus itself. By modern standards, its cosmology is implausible. A divine craftsman shapes the world from geometric solids, the universe possesses a soul, and the elements correspond to Platonic shapes. But this isn't a failure of imagination. It's a deliberate philosophical choice. Plato wrapped his cosmology in mythological and poetic language because he believed that was the only appropriate register for discussing what could never be truly known. A hymn honors something mysterious. A textbook claims to explain it. Plato chose the hymn. He matched his literary style to his epistemology, poetry for the uncertain, dialectic, rigorous philosophical questioning for the knowable. The mythic tone of the Timaeus is itself an argument about the limits of physical knowledge. Compare the Timaeus with the Theaetetus directly. The dialogue on nature uses monologue. Timaeus delivers a long, uninterrupted mythic narrative. The dialogue on knowledge uses true dialectic, systematic questioning between Socrates and the young mathematician, Theaetetus. Nature gets poetry and reverence. Knowledge gets discipline and precision. The contrast is deliberate. Plato assigned his sharpest philosophical tools to the subject he believed could yield genuine understanding, and reserved his most beautiful language for the subject that could only ever be believed, never fully known. Plato's reluctance to study nature wasn't intellectual laziness, it was a principled hierarchy. The mind, the forms, and mathematics gave access to a more real, more stable, more knowable realm than anything the senses could offer. This orientation shaped Western philosophy for 2,000 years. When the scientific revolution arrived in the 17th century, thinkers like Galileo and Newton had to overcome not just technical obstacles, but a deep philosophical prejudice inherited from Plato against taking the material world seriously as a source of genuine knowledge. Plato grasped something about the instability of empirical observation that still deserves serious consideration.